I'm Sarah Chen, 29 years old. If someone told you that your own sister would exclude you from Thanksgiving dinner for being too working class to meet her corporate friends, would you believe it? That's exactly what happened to me last November. And the aftermath changed our family forever. My sister Jessica thought she was protecting her image by hiding her electrical contractor sister from her prestigious colleagues. What she didn't know was that this contractor had been secretly funding her entire business education and controlled something much more valuable than she could imagine. Before I share what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I'm curious, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Let me know in the comments below. Now let me take you back to that unforgettable Thanksgiving. It started 3 days before Thanksgiving. Jessica called me while I was reviewing contracts at my office, though she assumed I was probably fixing someone's electrical panel. "Sarah, about Thursday," she began, her voice carrying that familiar edge of anxiety. "I need to talk to you about the dinner. What about it?" I asked, already sensing where this was heading. "Well, some colleagues from the firm will be joining us. Important people, executives." Actually, she paused. "So, about the dress code. Jessica, I know how to dress for Thanksgiving dinner." Of course. It's just when they ask what you do." Another pause. "Maybe just say you're in building systems consulting. It sounds more professional." I felt my stomach tighten. "You mean instead of saying I'm an electrical contractor?" "It's not lying. You do consult on electrical systems, right? For buildings and stuff?" "Jessica, I own a company that—" I know you have your business, but these people, Sarah, they're from Morrison and Partners. They handle major corporate accounts. I just need this to go perfectly. David Morrison himself might come." Her boss, the name meant nothing to me then, though it would soon mean everything. "Fine," I said, too tired to argue. "Building systems consulting it is. Thank you. Oh, and Sarah, maybe wear that navy dress you wore to Cousin Rachel's wedding. It looked very appropriate." After she hung up, I stared at the contracts on my desk. 5 new commercial buildings, all requiring electrical systems. My business had just landed another $1 million quarter. But to Jessica, I would always be the sister who worked with her hands, the one who chose technical school over business college. I should have known then what was coming. I arrived at Jessica's house in Riverside at noon on Thanksgiving, 2 hours early as promised to help with preparations. Her house, a beautiful contemporary that screamed successful young executive, always felt more like a showroom than a home. "You're wearing jeans," Jessica said instead of hello. I brought my dress. "I'm here to help cook, remember?" She glanced nervously at the door. "Right. Well, some people are coming early. Maybe you should change now." While I changed in the guest bathroom, I could hear Jessica frantically adjusting everything. The table settings, the flowers, even the family photos on the mantle. She actually removed one of us together at my technical school graduation. By 2 p.m., the executives started arriving. Jessica transformed into someone I barely recognized, her voice pitched higher, her laugh more musical. She introduced me to each guest the same way. "This is my sister Sarah. She works in the technical sector." Technical sector? Like I was some software developer instead of someone who designed their electrical systems. Then David Morrison walked in. He was older, distinguished, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything. When Jessica introduced us, those eyes lingered on my face for a moment longer than necessary. "Sarah Chen," he repeated slowly. "Why does that name sound familiar?" "Oh, Sarah's pretty common." Jessica jumped in quickly, her laugh too bright. "Shall I get you a drink, David?" But he was still looking at me, his expression thoughtful. Chen Electric Solutions." Jessica's face went pale. "That's just a coincidence. My sister does repairs. Small stuff, residential." I opened my mouth to correct her, but the warning look she shot me was intense. Something was about to shatter. I could feel it in the air like the pressure change before a storm. The real difficulty began during cocktail hour. Jessica had strategically placed me at the far end of the living room away from the main conversation circle, but one of the younger executives, Marcus, wandered over with his drink. "So technical sector?" he asked politely. "What kind of tech?" Before I could craft Jessica's preferred explanation, she appeared like a hawk protecting its nest. "Sarah works with electrical systems, wiring and power distribution." "Oh, like an engineer?" "More like a technician," Jessica corrected quickly. That forced laugh again. "She does electrical work." Marcus's expression shifted. That subtle change I'd seen 1,000 times. "Oh, well, someone has to do it, right?" Exactly, Jessica agreed too enthusiastically. Trade work is so essential. The way she said essential, like she was describing a particularly well-trained service provider, made my skin burn. Actually, I started. Sarah likes to call her contracting jobs a company, Jessica interrupted, smiling at Marcus like they were sharing an inside joke. It's nice, really. She has such ambitions. Marcus chuckled politely and excused himself to rejoin the real professionals. I watched him whisper something to another executive, both glancing my way with barely concealed amusement. Jessica stayed behind, her smile finally dropping. What are you doing? Telling the truth. The truth doesn't matter right now. These people, they don't understand our background. Where we came from. You mean where you came from? I'm not uncomfortable with, well, maybe you should be. The words shot out before she could stop them. We both froze. I didn't mean that, she said quickly. But she did. We both knew she did. From the kitchen doorway, I caught Aunt Linda watching us, her expression unreadable. Jessica grabbed my arm and pulled me into the kitchen, away from the guests. Listen, she said firmly, checking that no one had followed. I've worked too hard to get where I am. Do you understand what this dinner means? David Morrison doesn't socialize with junior executives. This is my chance to make management track. And what? I'm going to ruin it by talking about your work? These people, they went to Stanford Wharton. They discuss mergers and international business. You want to talk about circuits and wiring. It's honest work, Jessica. It's not what they expect. She caught herself, lowered her voice. Look, just stay in here. Help with the food. I'll tell them you're not feeling well. You want me to hide in the kitchen during Thanksgiving dinner? I want you to be realistic. You don't fit in that room, Sarah. You know it. I know it. They know it. The words hit like physical blows. But what hurt more was the relief on her face when she thought I'd comply. I'm not uncomfortable with what I do, Jessica. Well, I am. She immediately pressed her hand to her mouth, but it was too late. I mean, I just want everything to be perfect. From behind us, Aunt Linda's voice cut through the tension. Jessica, your guests are asking for you. Jessica shot me one last pleading look before rushing back to her audience. Aunt Linda stayed, studying me with those knowing eyes. How long are you going to let her do this to you? She asked softly. It's one dinner. It's been 7 years of dinners. Your mother would be heartbroken. She was right. Mom would be more than heartbroken about what was about to happen. But maybe it was time. Standing in Jessica's kitchen, I thought about the promise I'd made to Mom 7 years ago. She was dying. The illness had spread everywhere. And Jessica was in her first year of business school, drowning in debt. Take care of your sister, she'd whispered, her hand weak in mine. She's brilliant, but needs support. She needs someone strong like you. I will, Mom, I promise. She'd left us nothing but debt and that promise. Jessica didn't know that the night after the funeral, I'd sold my car, liquidated my savings, and set up an anonymous education trust in her name. She thought it was some forgotten investment of Mom's. 7 years. Every month, $3,200 left my account. Tuition, books, certification fees, even her apartment deposit. I'd expanded my business, taken on challenging commercial jobs, worked long hours. Also, Jessica could become the executive Mom dreamed she'd be. And now she wanted me to hide in the kitchen because I wasn't impressive enough. You know what she doesn't know, don't you? Aunt Linda said, joining me by the window. I helped you set up the trust, remember? Through my banker friend. Jessica has no idea her successful sister is the reason she's not drowning in $280,000 in student loans. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Your mother said to take care of her, not to let her walk all over you. There's a difference. Through the doorway, I could hear Jessica's bright laugh performing for her audience. David Morrison's deep voice responded something about commercial holdings and real estate development. Sometimes, Aunt Linda said quietly, the best way to take care of someone is to let them face the consequences of their choices. If only I'd known how prophetic those words would be. Can you believe Jessica's behavior? I know many of you have experienced something similar with family members who judge us based on our careers. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button. It really helps other people find these stories who might need to hear them. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been looked down on for having a trade job? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me. Now, let's see what happened when things escalated at dinner. Dinner was served at 4 Bao. Jessica had arranged the seating strategically, herself at the center where she could control the conversation, me at the far end near the kitchen door. In case we need anything, she'd said. The conversation flowed around mergers, acquisitions, and business strategies. I ate quietly, responding only when directly addressed. Then, David Morrison, who'd been watching me throughout the meal, set down his wine glass. "Ms. Chen," he said, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Sarah, I've been trying to place where I know your name. Chen Electric Solutions. That's your company, isn't it?" The table went silent. Jessica's fork clattered against her plate. "That's impossible," Jessica said quickly. "Sarah works for a small contracting firm." "No," David interrupted, his eyes never leaving mine. "Chen Electric Solutions, you bid on the Riverside Tower project last month. We represent the Riverside Development Group." I felt every eye at the table turn to me. Jessica's face had gone pale. "Yes," I said simply. "That's my company." "Your company?" Marcus, the executive from earlier, looked confused. "But I thought you did electrical repairs." "I do. I also design, install, and maintain complete electrical systems for commercial properties. We have about 180 employees now." "Stop!" Jessica stood abruptly, her voice sharp. "Just stop making things up, Sarah." The room froze. Even the grandfather clock seemed to pause its ticking. "Making things up?" I asked quietly. "Yes, pretending your little contracting work is some big corporation. These people know what real businesses look like." David Morrison's eyebrows rose. "Jessica, your sister's company had $35 million in revenue last year. They're the largest independent electrical contractor in the region." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica's mouth opened and closed. "That's not possible," she whispered. "Why?" I asked, finally letting 7 years of hurt creep into my voice. "Because I work with my hands. Because I didn't go to business school. Because you're just—" She stopped, but everyone knew what she'd been about to say. "Just a trade worker. Just the sister who chose the wrong path." David Morrison cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should—" But Jessica wasn't done. Her discomfort had transformed into defensiveness, and she was about to make everything much worse. Jessica's face flushed red, her carefully constructed image crumbling before her audience. She turned on me with 7 years of resentment blazing in her eyes. "You're not being truthful," she said flatly. "I don't know what you're trying to do, but—" "Jessica," Aunt Linda warned from across the table. "No," Jessica's voice rose. "She's trying to make me look bad in front of my colleagues, making up stories about some big company." "It's not a story," David said calmly. "We've been trying to secure a meeting with Ms. Chen for months. Chen Electric Solutions has the exclusive maintenance contract for our building." The other executives began murmuring among themselves. One pulled out his phone, presumably searching my company. Jessica laughed, but it was hollow, desperate. "This is absurd. Sarah, you need to leave." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Get out." "This is a professional gathering, not a trade meetup." Someone gasped. I think it was Marcus's wife. "Jessica," David's voice carried a warning. "That's enough." But Jessica was beyond listening. Her world was tilting, and she was grabbing for control the only way she knew how, by pushing me down. "Some people just don't fit in certain settings," she continued, her voice cold. "It's not personal. It's just reality. You don't belong here, Sarah. You never have. Because I'm just a contractor. Because you're not what I need here." The words exploded out of her. "Do you know how hard I've worked to distance myself from all of this? From being the daughter of a teacher who passed away with debt. From having a sister who chose technical school over college." The room was silent. Even the catering staff had frozen in the doorway. "And now you want to come here and pretend you're something you're not in front of the people who matter." I stood slowly, reaching for my purse. "You're right, Jessica. I don't belong here." Finally, some sense. I don't belong anywhere near someone who's uncomfortable with where they came from, who's uncomfortable with their own family. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message. Jessica scoffed. "Calling your partner to pick you up? Oh, wait. You don't have one of those either." One of the executives' wives audibly gasped at the cruelty, but I just smiled. "No, Jessica. I'm setting something in motion you should have seen coming." I finished typing the message and hit send. Across the table, Aunt Linda nodded slightly. She knew what I'd just done. 7 years, I said quietly, standing up and reaching for my document bag. 7 years is enough. Jessica rolled her eyes. "Dramatic much?" What does that even mean? You'll find out soon enough. I pulled out a thick manila envelope, the Chen Electric Solutions logo prominent on its surface. Jessica laughed, but there was uncertainty in it now. What's that? Your work invoice? Going to bill me for Thanksgiving dinner? I didn't answer. Just set the envelope on the table. David Morrison's eyes tracked the movement, noting the logo, the official look of the documents visible through the opening. This is absurd, Jessica said, but her voice wavered. Whatever game you're playing, it's not a game. I looked around the table, meeting the eyes of each guest. I want you all to remember this moment. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Spare us the fortune cookie wisdom, Jessica snapped. Just leave, gladly. But first, David, you should know that the message I just sent was to my CFO. As of Monday, we'll be reviewing all our commercial contracts for potential conflicts. David's eyes sharpened. He understood the implication immediately, even if Jessica didn't. Conflicts? Jessica scoffed. You do electrical work, Sarah. Stop pretending. Everything has a price, Jessica, I interrupted, echoing what I'd been thinking all evening. Even family loyalty. Aunt Linda stood up. I think I'll be leaving too. Jessica, you might want to open that envelope. After Sarah leaves, Jessica said firmly. I won't have her making a scene. If only she knew. The scene hadn't even started yet. I paused at the dining room threshold, my coat over my arm, and pulled out a second, smaller envelope from my bag. This one was cream-colored, with Estate of Margaret Chen embossed on the front. Actually, Jessica, there's one more thing. I set it next to the first envelope. Mom left you something after all. Her eyes flickered with interest despite her anger. Mom didn't have anything to leave. Not money, no, but she had wishes, instructions, and she made me the administrator of something very specific. David Morrison leaned forward slightly. As an executive, he recognized legal documents when he saw them. You're being absurd, Jessica said, but her hand twitched toward the envelope. Am I? Then open it right here, right now in front of everyone. Unless you're concerned about what's inside. I'm not concerned about anything from you. Prove it. The challenge hung in the air. Jessica's colleagues watched with barely concealed fascination. This was better than any business drama. Jessica snatched the cream envelope, tearing it open with sharp, angry movements. As she pulled out the papers, I saw the moment her eyes caught the letterhead. Chen Family Trust Educational Fund Administrator, Sarah Chen. Her face went white. What? She whispered. Keep reading, I said softly. One of the executives craned his neck to see. Is that a trust document? Jessica's hands had started shaking. She looked up at me, then at Aunt Linda, then back at the papers. This can't be real. Oh, it's very real, Aunt Linda said. I helped set it up, notarized it myself. David Morrison stood slightly. Professional interest overcoming social awkwardness. Jessica, what is it? But Jessica couldn't speak. She'd just discovered that her entire life, everything she'd achieved, had been built on a foundation she never knew existed. Jessica found her voice, and it came out strained. This is fake. Some pathetic attempt to make me look bad. Every payment to Stanford Business School, I said calmly. Every certification fee, every book. Every student loan payment that mysteriously disappeared. That was me, Jessica. For 7 years. You're not telling the truth, she stood, waving the papers. You couldn't possibly afford because I'm just a trade worker? I let the words hang. You're right. A contractor couldn't afford it. But the owner of the largest electrical company in the region, the one with $35 million in revenue, she could. The room erupted in whispers. Jessica's carefully curated image was crumbling in real time. Let me tell you what you don't know about your sister, I continued, my voice steady despite the pain. While you were focused on your career, I was building an empire. Long days, challenging commercial jobs, contracts others wouldn't touch. Why? To keep a promise to our mother. Stop it, Jessica said firmly. She asked me to take care of you, and I did. Every semester, $3,200. Your apartment deposit, when you couldn't make rent. The certification prep course you thought you won in a scholarship, that was me. 2. You're making this up to make me look bad. You're doing that yourself. Jessica, I turned to address her colleagues. She spent 7 years being uncomfortable with where she came from. Uncomfortable with our mother who passed away while working multiple jobs to support us. Uncomfortable with me for choosing honest work over prestige. Not everyone can work in management, Jessica said, repeating her earlier sentiment. Some people are just meant for technical labor. David Morrison actually flinched at that. You're right, I said. And some people are meant to be grateful, to have character, to remember where they came from. You, Jessica, you're none of those things. Get out, Jessica said loudly. Get out of my house. Gladly. But first, I pointed to the manila envelope. You might want to look at what else is in there, particularly the document marked contract termination notice. The words hung in the air like a blade waiting to drop. Jessica ripped open the manila envelope with such force that papers scattered across the table. David Morrison picked up one that landed near his plate, his expression shifting from curiosity to shock. Jessica, he said slowly, do you know what this is? She was frantically reading, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally horror. Chen Electric Solutions exclusive electrical maintenance contract. Morrison and Partners, she read in fragments. This can't be. Your sister's company, David said carefully, maintains every electrical system in our building, has for 3 years. It's a $4.5 million annual contract. The other executives were now passing documents around, murmuring in amazement. Page 3, I said helpfully. The termination clause. Jessica flipped frantically. 30 days notice. Conflict of interest clause. What conflict of interest? The one where my sister publicly excluded me in front of the very clients I service, I said. That seems like a pretty significant conflict to me. You can't. You wouldn't. I can, and I am. As of Monday, Morrison and Partners has 30 days to find a new electrical contractor. David's face had gone pale. Ms. Chen, surely we can discuss. There's nothing to discuss. Jessica made it clear that I don't belong in her world. I'm simply respecting her wishes. This is manipulation, Jessica said loudly. No, it's business. Something you should understand being such a successful executive. Aunt Linda stood up. Jessica, you should also know that without Sarah's financial support, you still owe Stanford about $45,000 for your final semester. Jessica swayed on her feet. What? The trust only covered through last semester. This final payment was supposed to come through next month, but I think Sarah's done paying for someone who's uncomfortable with her. You can't do this, Jessica's voice broke. My career. My reputation. Your career built on my money. Your reputation built on hiding your working-class roots. I picked up my bag. You wanted to pretend I don't exist. Congratulations, Jessica. As far as you're concerned, I no longer do. David Morrison stood. Ms. Chen, Sarah, please, let's discuss this rationally. But I was already walking out, leaving Jessica to face the ruins of the world she'd built on a foundation of ingratitude and denial. I still get emotional remembering this moment. The hurt from your own family hits different, doesn't it? If you've ever had to stand up to a family member who didn't appreciate your sacrifices, drop a comment below. I want to hear your story. And if you're finding value in this, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next, because the truth is about to come out in the most unexpected way. The room exploded the moment I left. I could hear it from the foyer as I put on my coat. Jessica's voice shrill and desperate. David Morrison's deep tones trying to restore order. The chaos of 12 executives all talking at once. Then David appeared in the doorway. Ms. Chen, Sarah, please wait. I paused, my hand on the door handle. Your sister is having difficulty processing this information, he said carefully. But I need to understand something. You really own Chen Electric Solutions? For 8 years now. The same company that maintains the Riverside Tower, the Morrison Complex, and your entire office among about 55 other commercial properties. Yes. He shook his head in amazement. We've been trying to expand your contract for months. My facilities manager says you're the best in the business. And yet my sister is uncomfortable with me. Jessica is young, he said diplomatically. Young and apparently very short-sighted. From the dining room, we could hear Jessica protesting. She can't do this. There has to be a way to stop this. There is, David said quietly to me. Contract law, and you're well within your rights. He paused. Though I hope you'll reconsider, not for Jessica's sake, but for the 40 other executives who had nothing to do with this. You have 30 days to find another contractor in December. Do you know how difficult that will be? About as difficult as sitting in that room while my sister called me inappropriate for her guests. He nodded slowly. I understand. For what it's worth, Jessica's behavior tonight won't go unnoticed at the firm. We value character, Ms. Chen, and your sister just showed us hers. Jessica appeared behind him, mascara streaking down her face. Sarah, please, let's talk about this. Now you want to talk after you excluded me? I didn't mean it. I was just stressed. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The pressure of having your business school paid for. The pressure of never having to worry about student loans. That pressure? The other guests had crowded into the hallway now, watching this family drama unfold. Everyone makes mistakes, Jessica pleaded. This wasn't a mistake. This was 7 years of you being uncomfortable with me, with Mom, of where we came from. I'm not uncomfortable. You removed our photo from your mantle. You told people I do electrical repairs like it's something to be ashamed of. You tried to hide me in the kitchen. Each word hit her visibly. Please, she whispered. You're all I have left. No, Jessica, I was all you had left. And you threw me away for the approval of people who now know exactly what kind of person you are. I opened the door, letting in the cold November air. Happy Thanksgiving, Jessica. Enjoy explaining to Stanford how you're going to pay that final semester. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I turned back to face the crowd gathered in Jessica's foyer. You want to know the whole truth? I asked the room. Let me tell you about Margaret Chen's daughters. Jessica tried to interrupt, but David held up a hand, silencing her. Our mother was a teacher, I continued. Worked herself to exhaustion, literally trying to give us a better life. When she passed, Jessica was in her first year at Stanford Business, drowning in debt, about to drop out. Sarah, don't, Jessica pleaded. Mom made me promise to take care of her. So I did. I sold everything I had. Took on the most challenging electrical jobs, high-risk buildings, industrial plants, places that paid premium rates. I built my company from nothing, working jobs other contractors wouldn't touch. The executives were transfixed. This was compelling drama. Every month for 7 years, I sent $3,200 to an education trust. Jessica thought it was from Mom's insurance. There was no insurance. There was just me keeping my promise. I pulled out my phone, showing them the banking app. Here's every transfer, $280,000 total. Business school, certifications, apartment deposits, even her car payment when she couldn't make it. Jessica had slid down the wall, sitting on the floor now, crying. And how did she repay me? I looked at each of them. By being uncomfortable with me, by telling people I'm just a technician, by trying to hide me from you all because I work with my hands. Aunt Linda stepped forward, holding another document. I have here a notarized record of every payment, every sacrifice Sarah made. She worked long days. She delayed her own life, her own dreams to fund Jessica's. Why? Marcus's wife asked softly. Why would you do all that for someone who treated you this way? Because family is supposed to mean something, I said. Because promises matter. Because I thought that someday Jessica would understand that success isn't about the letters after your name or the prestige of your job. It's about character, integrity, remembering where you came from. David Morrison cleared his throat. Jessica, is this true? All of it? She couldn't answer, just nodded through her tears. Then you haven't just made a mistake tonight, he said seriously. You've shown us that you lack the basic character we require at Morrison and Partners. Jessica's head snapped up. What? Your performance review is next month. This display of ingratitude, of class prejudice, of complete lack of integrity will be noted. The consequences to her career delivered by the very person she tried to impress. The trust fund is terminated as of tonight, I announced. The electrical contract will end in 30 days. And Jessica, we're done. Don't call. Don't write. Don't show up at my office. I pulled out the final document from my bag, the one I'd hoped I'd never have to use. This is a cessation of support notice, I said, handing it to Jessica. Legally notarized, witnessed, and effective immediately. Jessica's hands shook as she read it. You're really cutting me off? I'm setting boundaries with someone who never valued what I gave. But I'll lose everything. My apartment, my car, they're all tied to payments from the trust. Then you'll have to do what I did, work for it. David Morrison took the document, scanning it with professional interest. This is legally sound, he murmured. Your sister knew exactly what she was doing. Of course I did. I've been running a multi-million-dollar company for 8 years. I didn't get there by being the foolish sister who works with her hands. Jessica struggled to her feet. Please, Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry there are consequences. That's not true. Really? Then tell me, Jessica, when were you planning to thank me? When were you going to acknowledge that your entire career exists because I kept my promise to Mom? Silence. That's what I thought. I signed the termination notice. It's done. The trust fund that paid for your education terminated. The electrical contract that could have been a connection between us terminated in 30 days. Our relationship, well, you terminated that yourself tonight. You can't just abandon me. I'm not abandoning you. I'm doing what I should have done years ago, letting you stand on your own without being uncomfortable with the foundation you stood on to get there. One of the other executives whispered, "This is intense." No, Aunt Linda corrected. This is justice. Jessica spent 7 years taking Sarah's money while being uncomfortable with her. She made her bed. David Morrison handed the papers back to Jessica. You should know that without Chen Electric Solutions, our building will likely have to close for at least a week during the transition. That's millions in lost billable hours. Jessica's face went even paler. That's not my problem anymore, I said, heading for the door one last time. Good luck explaining that to the senior executives, Jessica. I'm sure they'll be very understanding about why you mistreated your sister, who happened to be their most important vendor. The immediate aftermath was swift and significant. Before I even reached my car, my phone was buzzing with a text from my CFO confirming the contract termination notice would be sent Monday morning. Behind me, I could hear the departure beginning. Car doors slamming, engines starting. Jessica's carefully orchestrated Thanksgiving was over. Sarah, wait. David Morrison jogged after me, his breath visible in the cold air. Please, just a moment. I paused by my Tesla. Yes, the electrical contractor drove a Tesla Model S. Another thing Jessica never bothered to notice. This will affect Jessica's career severely, he said. I know, she owes $45,000 to Stanford. Without my support, she'll have to take out emergency loans at difficult rates. I know the firm will have to review her position. This kind of character issue, the disruption to our operations, that's between you and her. He studied me for a moment. You knew this would happen. You knew I'd be here tonight. I smiled slightly. I had my suspicions when she mentioned you specifically. I've been providing your electrical services for 3 years, David. I know your schedule. Jessica never made the connection because she never asked about my work. She could lose her position. She should have thought of that before publicly mistreating the person paying her bills. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry it came to this. Your mother would be proud of what you built, Sarah, and disappointed in how Jessica treated you. Thank you. One more thing. That Riverside Tower project, we'd like to discuss it with you directly, without Jessica involved. I handed him my business card. My real one, with CEO printed clearly under my name. Call my office Monday. As I drove away, I saw Jessica standing in her doorway, illuminated by the porch light, watching her future disappear along with my tail lights. The other guests were leaving too, the parking lot emptying rapidly. Her big networking dinner had become her professional disaster. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Linda. Your mother would be proud. You kept your promise long enough. It was time to let go. She was right. 7 years of sacrifice, of being diminished and dismissed, of funding someone who was uncomfortable with me. It was finally over. But the real consequences, those were just beginning. The following week was intense for Jessica. Monday morning, my CFO hand-delivered the contract termination notice to Morrison and Partners. By noon, the senior executives were in emergency session. The building's electrical system, maintained exclusively by my company for 3 years, would need a new contractor in the dead of winter. The other major firms were either already committed or charging significantly higher rates for emergency service. Tuesday, Jessica was called into an executive meeting. David Morrison told me later, when we'd met to discuss the Riverside Tower, that she'd been reassigned from corporate strategy to administrative work, where first-year employees usually started. She cried, he said simply, blamed you for ruining her life. And I reminded her that she ruined her own life the moment she forgot where she came from. Wednesday, Stanford Business School's financial office contacted Jessica about the outstanding $45,000. Without the trust fund's final payment, she had 48 hours to secure emergency loans or face having her degree withheld. Thursday, the story had somehow spread through the business community. Jessica Chen, the rising executive who publicly mistreated her trade-working sister, only to discover that sister was a millionaire CEO who'd been paying her way. She became a cautionary tale told at firms across the city. Friday, I received an email from Jessica. 20 paragraphs of apologies, justifications, and pleas. I didn't respond. But the real consequence came the following Monday. Morrison and Partners announced they'd have to close for 3 days during the electrical transition. The lost billable hours, the client inconvenience, the chaos, all traced back to Jessica's Thanksgiving dinner. She was quietly encouraged to explore other opportunities. 3 weeks later, she took a position at a small firm across town. Half the salary, twice the commute. Her luxury apartment gone. The leased car returned. The designer wardrobe probably being sold online. Meanwhile, my business grew. The Riverside Tower contract went through, $45 million over 5 years. David Morrison gave me a glowing recommendation that led to 3 more major contracts. Your sister called me, Aunt Linda told me over coffee, begging me to intercede. And I told her the same thing your mother would have. Respect is earned, not demanded. And once lost, it's almost impossible to recover. Jessica had learned the hard way that you can't build a life on a foundation of ingratitude and denial. The higher you climb while looking down on others, the farther you have to fall. The family response was equally swift. Word spread through our extended family rapidly. Jessica had been living off Sarah's money while treating her poorly. Our father called from Arizona, where he'd retired 2 years ago. Sarah, is it true everything Jessica did? Yes, Dad. And you paid for her entire education? I promised, Mom. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm flying up. Jessica needs to hear some things from me. That conversation I heard later was significant. Dad spoke to Jessica for 2 hours straight about respect, family values, and the meaning of gratitude. He ended by saying he was disappointed to have raised someone so ungrateful. Our cousins, who Jessica had always looked down on for their ordinary jobs, were particularly unsympathetic. Cousin Alex, who runs a plumbing business, posted on social media, "Money doesn't make character. Jessica Chen is proof that you can have a business degree and still have no class at all." The post got significant engagement from family and friends. Jessica tried damage control, posting her own version of events, claiming I'd manipulated the situation and ruined her career out of jealousy. But Aunt Linda shut that down quickly by posting the receipts, literally screenshots of the trust fund payments, all from my accounts. The most surprising support came from my employees. When they heard what happened, they rallied around me. My foreman, Tom, a 58-year-old veteran who'd been with me since the beginning, said it best. You gave that ungrateful person $280,000, and she was uncomfortable with you. Boss, you're worth 10 of her. My office manager, Rachel, was less diplomatic. I hope she enjoys public transportation. Bet she's too good for that, too. But perhaps the most satisfying vindication came from an unexpected source. 3 of Jessica's former Stanford classmates reached out to me looking for electrical services for their firms. One said directly, "Anyone who could build what you built while supporting an ungrateful sister has the kind of character we want to work with." Jessica, meanwhile, was not welcome at family events. Christmas came and went without her. When she showed up at Aunt Linda's New Year's party anyway, the room went quiet. People literally turned their backs. She left after 10 minutes. She made her choice, Aunt Linda said. She chose prestige over family. Now she has neither. The person who was so uncomfortable with her trade-working roots had become the family disappointment herself. Months after that Thanksgiving, my life had transformed in ways I never expected. Chen Electric Solutions landed 3 major hospital contracts, partly thanks to David Morrison's recommendation. We expanded to 280 employees. I was featured in Regional Business Magazine as the trade CEO who built an empire, a title I wore with pride. Jessica, I heard through the grapevine, was struggling at her new firm across town. The pay barely covered her student loans, which were now overwhelming without my support. She'd moved to a studio apartment in a building that ironically used one of my competitors for electrical services. I wondered if she thought about that every time the lights flickered. Then in May, I received a long email from her. "Sarah, I've spent 6 months in therapy trying to understand why I became someone who could treat you the way I did. The short answer is I was so afraid of being seen as less than that I became less than human. I know you've heard this before, but I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Not sorry for the consequences. Sorry for the 7 years I took your love, your money, your sacrifice, and gave you nothing but discomfort in return. Mom would be disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in me. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to restore the trust fund. I'm working 2 jobs now to pay my loans, and honestly, it's what I deserve. I'm learning what you already knew. There's dignity in hard work, no matter what kind. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know that I finally understand what I threw away. You weren't just my sister or my benefactor. You were my role model. And I was too blinded by false pride to see it. Jessica. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. Jessica, I appreciate your apology and your self-reflection. I'm glad you're in therapy. If you're serious about changing, prove it. Not to me, but to yourself. Work your 2 jobs. Pay your loans. Remember what it feels like to earn rather than be given. Maybe someday when you've truly learned to value where you came from instead of running from it, we can have coffee. But that day isn't today. Set your own boundaries. Earn your own success. Find your own way. That's what I did. Sarah. I meant every word. Forgiveness might come someday, but respect, that had to be earned. And Jessica had a long way to go. That Thanksgiving changed everything. I learned that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. That enabling someone's disrespect, even out of love, serves no one. And that the promise I made to my mother had an expiration date, the moment her other daughter forgot where she came from. Today, Chen Electric Solutions is bigger than ever. We employ 320 people, many from trade backgrounds like mine. I make sure every single one knows their work has dignity and value. Jessica, last I heard, she's still at that firm across town, still paying off her loans, still learning what it means to earn your way. Maybe she'll make it, maybe she won't, but it's not my responsibility anymore. The most important lesson, never be uncomfortable with honest work. Never let anyone make you feel less than for working with your hands. And never ever forget where you came from. Because forgetting your roots doesn't make you sophisticated, it makes you hollow. And hollow people, they eventually collapse under their own emptiness. Just ask Jessica. Thank you for listening to my story. Setting boundaries with family is never easy, but sometimes it's necessary for our own well-being. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Your support means everything. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut off someone who didn't appreciate your sacrifices? What would you have done in my situation? Drop a comment below. And remember, never be uncomfortable with honest work. No matter what anyone says, your value isn't determined by your job title, but by your character.